Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming to our Sustainability Commission meeting today. So I'm going to open the agenda and we'll go from there. The first item on our agenda is first, I guess, like welcome. Thanks for being here. And now we will do the roll call. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment here. Okay, hold on just a moment. Okay, so when I call your name, please say present or please say here. And because I can't actually see you when I have the roll document in front of me. So Steve Clark.
Here.
Jacqueline Rhodes.
Here.
Thank you. Scott Sidlow.
I am here.
Thank you. Jenny Sachs.
Here.
Thank you. David Director.
I'm here.
Thank you, David. Sean Stansel. Becca Yurkovich.
I'm here.
Thank you. Cephas Hales Richardson. Crystal Gald. Okay. Francine Locke.
Here.
Okay, and you said Ed Orner is not here.
Correct.
And that Mark Manfrey is not here.
Correct.
Thomas Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you. Jim Warner. Ed McGargy.
Here.
Thank you. Laura Goodrich Cairns.
Here.
Great. So looking at this, we have quorum. So that's great. Okay. So now I'll share my screen again. So now we're just going to have a quick Mentimeter. Oh, wait, let me stop sharing just for a moment. Let me make sure I pull it up first. We're going to have a Mentimeter question. So here we go. So our question today is, and you can open another browser on your computer or use your cell phone. Our question today is, what are you doing for Earth Day? Is there something special that you're doing on Earth Day, or how are you recognizing or celebrating Earth Day? So you go onto your phones or another browser on your computer and you go to www.menti.com, M as in Mary, ENTI, and use code 57505002. So everyone on this meeting here can participate. So it's www.menti.com and the code is 57505002. What are you doing for Earth Day? Our great sustainability conference coming up, which is, I guess, like the day before Earth Day, but definitely that's something that we're doing for Earth Day. Promoting heat pump HVAC, volunteering, cleaning up trash in the neighborhood, gardening, teaching, reflecting, a stream cleanup, giving a talk, planting a native garden, building trails, a Darby Creek cleanup, a river cleanup. It's probably all the same cleanup, maybe, or at least it's great that we're taking the day to clean up our waterways. 2 sustainability conferences. I wasn't sure if that meant 2. Sending, what's FOI? FOIA, actually. I'm not really sure if I know what that means.
Freedom of
Freedom-
Information Act.
Freedom
sorry,
of
what?
Information requests
Oh, Freedom of Information.
Sounds
Okay.
exciting. That's an exciting thing to do.
to the Pennsylvania DEP.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. So seems like most of us entered the sustainability conference. So if we look forward to participating in that. Okay, I think awesome. All right. I thought that was interesting to share that. So now I will share my screen again. The next item on our agenda is approval of the meeting minutes. So for those of you who are members of the commission, I hope you've had time to review it. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our March meeting?
I'll make the motion. It's Jacqueline.
Okay, thanks, Jacqueline.
I'll second
Um,
it. And-
Oh, who was the second? Ed Mavardi?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, so moved. Our March meeting minutes are approved. Now with Sean Stansel not here, would someone like to take meeting minutes? I know this is recorded, so he can do them later, but in case there's anything we need to reference during the meeting, can someone just jot down some notes?
Carol, looking back at these, this is Becky Yerkovich. I was not in our March meeting, but I'm in the attendance.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I'll be sure that that's
Thank you.
removed. Thank you. All right. I'll go back to the agenda. So our next item on the agenda is the Chief Sustainability Officer update. Francine.
Thank you. I'll share my screen. Okay. Interesting. That's my presentation. That's weird. Hold on for a sec. Ah, there we are. Good. All right. So thank you so much for being here today. Just going to start off with the highlights from the last month. Delaware County was accepted into the PJM Cities and Communities Coalition, or PJMCCC. We are bringing that to County Council at our next meeting to approve the adoption of the charter. PJMCCC is a coalition of cities primarily. Will be the first county, Delaware County, to be in this group. And the goal is to work as a coalition to influence the energy grid, the electricity grid policy, and trying to make that grid more sustainable. As you probably know, that most of the energy that comes from the grid through PJM is natural gas and coal. So we're trying to leverage our power as a coalition to change that and influence how PJM works to get electricity to homes and to businesses. Let's see. I was really fortunate enough to present at the Southeastern Delaware County Ministerium. They have a monthly meeting, and I just shared the work that we're doing, as well as with the League of Women Voters, along with Melissa Muroff from the DA's office. We did a presentation on April 24th, sharing the work that we're doing, and we had such a great response from the folks there. It was very interesting to hear the questions they had as well. Delaware County is participating in the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission Regional Power Purchasing Agreement workshops and discussion groups and one-on-ones with a company called NLX, which is the energy consultant that was hired by the participating counties, which are Delaware County, Bucks, Montgomery, and Chester counties. We're working together with DVRPC to try to find the most cost-effective and clean energy mechanism to move forward as possible. And I will be sharing with you eventually when we come to a conclusion as to how we want to proceed with this. Councilmember Schaefer actually was at our meeting today with all these folks, and it's a very, very time-consuming and laborious discussion trying to understand how to procure energy, where our energy comes from, and all the different options. Just so you know that this month, April 13th, Delaware County, we will be hosting our quarterly sustainability team. I'm calling it a retreat. It's basically our planning department, facilities management, fleet management, conservation district, public works, and parks and recreation departments, the directors. We're going to be coming together and talking about our departmental missions, goals, and metrics. And so it should be nice. Hopefully the weather's nice and we can do that outdoors. And this is really preparing for our budget season, as well as feeding into the sustainability plan that we are hoping to complete in September, by September. Right now, I am focusing on developing the county's sustainable fleet management plan with our director of motor vehicle management. We're trying to transform that department. We did apply for an alternative fuels incentive grant, actually two of them, totaling $600,000 regarding purchasing EVs and charging stations. And I will be able to share with you later on next month what the result is of that grant application. So keep your fingers crossed. I have some preliminary information. I'm not saying anything, but just keep your fingers crossed that we could see some interesting results of that. The second thing that I'm focusing on right now is the zero waste plan for our government center and courthouse complex here where I reside in my office. We have a lot of work to do to be the flagship of sustainability, starting with making sure that our waste is reduced and that we are recycling. So we're starting out with contracts. Right now we have 2 contracts with 2 different vendors to haul our waste and recycling, and it's not done the way I'd like to see it. So we are restructuring an RFP. We're going to put that out so that we get all of the information we need back, showing our waste diversion rates, the weight of our recycling versus our trash. We're going to want to have waste audits so we know what's in our waste stream. And so I'll be sharing that back out with you guys as I move forward with that. And as you know, we do have some positions that we're hiring for. We're seeking a permanent planning director. Right now we have an interim. Tom Schaefer's doing an awesome job. We're looking for a sustainability and resilience manager. We have 2 candidates right now that we're interviewing, but please check out our website at delcopa.gov under jobs. So just want to mention a little bit about the sustainable fleet management policy and plan that I'm working on with our team here. And we're trying to set carbon reduction goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through our fleet, through the county's own fleet. So we have 2 ways of looking at our sustainability plan. It's from the county operations, what we control, and then county-wide, what we can influence and educate. So as part of our greening county operations plan, we are trying to totally change over to EVs. And so this will align with our sustainability plan as we move forward. And we're trying to do this through a policy and a plan. So the policy would go to county council for adoption. And some of the strategies we're looking at are establishing a process for reducing fuel demand by minimizing the number of vehicles we have. So reducing the number of vehicles we have here. And that means that we will be using less fuel and also less energy if we were using EVs, because we want people to try to use public transportation, carpool as much as possible, walk and bike to work. We're trying to establish guidelines for the deployment of our vehicles. So using the shortest routes. So route optimization, using GPS technologies so that our folks who are out there are using the best route that is at the shortest distance. Ensuring that we are creating a policy and we're going to align with that policy for procuring vehicles so that they are electric or low emission, but primarily electric. There are some vehicles right now that don't have electric options, such as specialty vehicles for our law enforcement. So we're looking at low emissions for those, but ultimately we want EVs. And so that's our plan moving. They're the strategies we'll start with, and then I will share updates with you monthly as to how we're going with this plan. There will be a talk a bit about this, but just wanted to remind you that our municipal waste management plan is in the process of being developed, our 10-year plan, and it's a mandated process. And so there are public workshops, and we have an advisory committee. We had our first advisory committee meeting yesterday. I think it went really well. We had a lot of participants. I think we had about 40. It was a Zoom meeting. Some of them will be in person, and they're listed here, the locations for the in-person meetings. We're trying to add a 4th in-person meeting in Chester, and that will be coming along soon. We'll share with the group. We are having the Sustainability Symposium. So this is not the Delaware County Sustainability Conference. This is actually the Green Building United. I think it's their 10th annual sustainability symposium. And we're presenting. Delaware County submitted a presentation to Green Building United to be included in the symposium, and they accepted that. And so we're going to be talking about the facility condition assessment study that we've shared with the Sustainability Commission in the past, how that is actually a very novel thing. It's unique that we did energy audits of all of our buildings and properties. And so we're going to share with the symposium audience the scope of that project, how we did it, our findings, and what we're going to be doing moving forward with that information. And that's my brief CSO update this time. There's a lot of work going on with the sustainability conference, and I'll share that a little bit later today. Carol.
Thank you so much, Francine. I noticed there's a message in the chat. How can the DA's office help support recycling in the courthouse?
Oh, that's a
Ready
great
to help.
question. That's a great question. So we're going to be working on this zero waste plan for the county courthouse from 3 perspectives. One is at the back end of the buildings, at the loading dock. So making sure we have a contract with vendors that is correct, that has what we need. Then secondly is to ensure our custodial staff have the proper equipment and tools and training needed to collect recyclables and trash and sort them properly and bring them outside to the right dumpsters. And then third is what you're talking about, Melissa, and that is actually the building occupants, our behavioral changes. So there will be opportunity for us to work together on training people, having community outreach, and ensuring that everybody in the building knows what to do and that they have the proper receptacles and we know where to put things. So there's going to be a very large outreach program for building occupants as we move forward.
Thanks, Francine. Melissa, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I actually had another question, and Francine, I'm completely fine if you say too soon, don't know, check with me later. But here's my question. I am really interested in the PJMCCC coalition. I think that's really interesting. And has this just happened? I mean, it's not quite determined yet, particularly what like Delco.
It just happened for us. It just happened for Delco. So we were just, I think the organization has been going on for a few years now.
Yeah, it had, right.
Yeah, but we were just accepted. So I submitted an application about a month ago and we got the word on it a few weeks, like 2 weeks ago or so. And I just brought it to our solicitor saying, can we adopt their charter? Because we have to adopt their charter to be a member. And so it was reviewed and they said, okay, we like it. And now we have to bring it to council. But moving forward, Melissa, I would be happy to invite you to the meetings because they do have routine meetings with this group of folks. And it's not just me that's a member, it's Delaware County.
Right. No, I was reading about it, so which is pretty interesting. I just didn't know if, and that was my question, if the meetings were open to the public, and also do you know who, I assume that the coalition is staffed?
It is, yes. So Zach Green? Zach Green he works with them. He was with the city of Philadelphia for a while.
Oh, that's why the name's familiar. Okay.
Yes, he's there and a couple of other folks. But what I can do is you and I can communicate after this and I can share more details with you. And then at our next Sustainability Commission meeting, I can share more with this group about who we're interacting with and what that involves. I can give some meeting dates to share what that's going to look like because there is a schedule.
Oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. Hats off to you. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Francine? Okay.
So Carol, just want to note that Jim Warner just checked in
Okay.
for the roll call.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next topic. I'll share my screen. Next is a zero waste update with Ruth Abbey and Jacqueline Rhodes.
Actually, today we don't have Ruth Abbey with us. We are fortunate enough to have Amy Perlmutter, who is here to share information about one focus of the Zero Waste project, which is the community outreach and engagement. Last time we had our meeting, our Sustainability Commission meeting, there was someone who asked the question, well, what are we doing about recycling in public schools? And so that's a piece of what Amy is going to report out on. Amy, I'll give you the floor.
Sure, thanks. So, hi, nice to meet everybody. I think some of you were at yesterday's Zero Waste Advisory Committee meeting. So, yesterday did kick off our Zero Waste outreach, at least the advisory committee part of it. We've been doing what we're calling listening sessions. So we've been talking to different individuals, different sectors to try to get to do like little hour-long SWOT, what's working well with the county with zero waste, where are the opportunities for improvement. We've talked to various service providers, municipalities, K through 12, environmental groups, faith-based organizations, higher ed, and then we're planning environmental justice and business communities still. We're working on those. We had one meeting with municipalities, and I was with the Council of Governments. I was hoping for a follow-up. I haven't gotten any response from them to my email. So if anybody here works with the COG, we'd love to follow up and do more. We didn't have a lot of time on their agenda. And so I think that the main area of interest for you today was with the education, K through 12, and what we learned. And so some of the things that was, I thought that was a really good meeting that we had with them. And what's some of the issues that came up were, and opportunities, I think, were contracting. So there's the DCIU puts out a contract that the schools can use for solid waste and recycling. And it seems like some schools are getting dinged for contamination, other schools are not. It doesn't seem to be an opportunity if the schools are reducing waste, that they can get fewer trash pickups and save money that way. And I don't know if that's just the contractor giving them a runaround or if there's opportunities to fix the way the contract is worded. There also the schools, and you're lucky, it seems like the schools down there have, where you are, I'm in Cambridge, so when I say down there, you are down there. The schools have dishwashers in the cafeterias, and I know where I am, and I know in some other places, schools have gotten rid of the dishwashers. And so that really provides opportunities for reusables, but then you need staff for that. And then I think one other thing, it's education, contracting, best practices. I can't read my writing. It looks like I wrote stuffing. I have no idea what that is, but there just seems like there's a lot of opportunities. And so we asked if the schools might be interested in a workshop on best practices for zero waste in schools. And there really did seem to be interest in that. And so that might be something, down the road that we could do with them, or that you could do with them, is to really look at what are the best practices in terms of reducing the waste that they throw out, recycling better, and in contracting. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. So I don't know if Francine, well, just mention also, so we're doing a series of public workshops, and they're going to be in the libraries throughout the county. The first one is on the 28th. And because there's a limited amount of space in the libraries, I think we can get about 35 people per session. At least in this first one, we'll see how it goes. We're going to be doing a concurrent virtual session. So Alex Danovich and I will be in Pennsylvania, in Upper Darby for the first one, facilitating that first session. And at the exact same time, Ruth Abbey will be, and I'm not sure who else from our team, will be doing an online Zoom with the same information. And that way we can maximize the number of people who are hearing the same information. And the first thing that we'll be working on or talking about in these sessions is sort of getting everybody to understand what zero waste is, and then talking about what are the principles that should be guiding the development of a zero waste plan. And that's part of what we talked about in our meeting yesterday too.
Amy, how many schools did you go to? And
well, we had one meeting, and I think we had, let me just check. I think we had about a dozen people attend. Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but I'd say it was seven public school district and one private school.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anything I didn't cover that you wanted me to?
I'll just add that the dates and locations for the advisory committee and the workshops are on Delaware County's website. So on our sustainability, there's a link on our sustainability page.
Any other questions for Amy? Okay, hearing none, I'll go back to our agenda.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Pennsylvania Resources Council, Zero Waste for Summer Concert Series at Rose Tree Park.
Emily is here.
Yeah, hi.
You're on.
How are you guys doing? I'm Emily Potosny. I am the Zero Waste Pennsylvania Program Manager for Pennsylvania Resources Council. We are a nonprofit that works statewide, but I'm based out in our Pittsburgh office, where I manage our events-focused programming. We assist anywhere between pretty much 30 and 40 events a year out here in Pittsburgh on reducing waste and diverting, with a goal of more than 90% diversion at all those events. And we had the opportunity through partnership with EcoCycle and the Candide Foundation. I've got Bill Germain over here, who I'll have to introduce himself in a minute, to work with Rose Tree on their summer concert series running from June to August to help implement recycling throughout the event space, with the goal of trying to also implement compost in future years and try and get them on board with zero waste as a goal for that whole concert series as well. So we wanted to take a moment just to talk to you a little bit about the overall goals today, and in particular ways that if the commission wants to get involved, or any of you individually would like to, get involved more so in that program. We definitely have lots of opportunities coming up to do so. So Bill, I'll pop it over to you. Introduce yourself.
Great, thanks, Emily. Everybody, I'm assuming you can hear me okay? Just wanted to check.
Yes.
Great. So I'm Bill Germain. Just by way of background, I am a former manager and analyst at EcoCycle. Currently, I'm an independent consultant, sustainability consultant based in Denver, Colorado, and I am the program manager, facilitator for Crush a Crusade. And that's Candide's national grant program to promote recycling across the country. And just really privileged to be a part of this project to help implement zero waste practices, starting with the recycling program at Rose Tree Park. And we recently gave a presentation to the facilities management and personnel at Rose Tree, and I have that presentation, but it needs to be dramatically abridged for today's to meet the time constraints. So I actually wanted to share some of that, and I think Emily's going to contribute to help kind of explain the goals and how we intend to support zero waste at Rose Tree beginning this summer. So I'll start by sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay, so this is not allowing me to share only a single.
Try again, Bill. I just changed.
Oh, okay. Let me try that again. Here we go. Got it. Great. So I'm going to hopefully not mess this up. Can you still see my presentation, everybody?
Yes.
Great, great. So again, I'll just explain what this is. It is a grant worth approximately $20,000 to support recycling at Rose Tree Park with essential equipment, signage, and some training, remote, but also in part in person, thanks to partnership with PRC. I've already explained Crush a Crusade. What we usually do is start out by establishing a shared understanding and some language around zero waste. So we utilize the Zero Waste International Alliance's definition to explain what zero waste is and what it isn't. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, but it is often the source of confusion. It seems like an unattainable thing. We use it as a goal and to communicate practices that can support outcomes that really result in sustainable materials management. That's what it's about. If you're familiar with circular economy, then a lot of the principles in the zero waste hierarchy are familiar. The fine print from the top, I'll just kind of add. So the hierarchy of best use to worst use or strategies starts with reducing, conserving materials. So avoidance is really key. So we start by refusing, returning, reducing, designing out waste. These are principles, if you're familiar with the three principles, core principles of circular economy, they're kind of embodied in these strategies. And one thing that I like to point out, which is a common misconception, is we want to promote recycling. It's essential, but it actually is very low in the hierarchy of zero waste. And that is because the recycling process pretty much, well, across all materials, always requires new inputs of energy, water, virgin materials. It is not a one-to-one perfect circular loop. And so recycling is essential, it's important, but it is not sufficient in and of itself to accomplish zero waste. And this is using the EPA's food recovery hierarchy, which is really similar, just to kind of illustrate that composting is another essential practice, but it appears, lower in the hierarchy and for similar reasons. So there are better uses for organics when we're seeking to consider them in a zero waste approach. Strategies, from source reduction to feeding humans and then animals, steering organic feedstocks to industrial uses. These are all important higher strategies that are higher in the hierarchy. And then I usually try to explain what zero waste is by talking about what it isn't. And so a few things that hopefully will ring true with you. Zero waste is not just recycling 100% of the waste you generate. So even if you achieve a 100% recycling rate, which is awesome, it's not zero waste. And for the reasons that I've already explained, every time you recycle, it requires the additional inputs. We will not recycle our way out of the challenge and problem of sustainable materials management. Zero waste does not include incineration or waste to energy. And for obvious reasons, it results in emissions that we're really trying locally and globally to combat, carbon emissions, methane emissions, etc. Not to mention toxics. Zero waste to landfills is not zero waste. Again, that's a great goal. And there are some concrete examples in industry of achieving zero waste to landfill. Maybe some of the brands that you're familiar with have proclaimed that. Maybe Subaru comes to mind. Great, wonderful, but that is not zero waste. Zero waste is not waste management. And that's my question to you. If it's not waste management, I've kind of already said it, but what would it be? And you can feel free to shout out or put it in the chat. Any takers?
Want me to fill it in?
Yeah, you could fill it in.
Resource management.
Yeah, it's changing our mindset, and that's a big part of the behavioral change that's necessary. It's not waste. They're resources. And recently in Colorado, just for an example, we're really advocating for producer responsibility in our state, and I think maybe Pennsylvania has similar legislation that's in the works.
Pardon me, we do have a question if you wouldn't mind taking that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Chuck,
go
would
ahead.
you like to ask your question?
I don't have a question. I was just going to suggest when we're promoting recycling, we give people the real choice. Recycle it or burn it in Chester.
Yeah, I think so. Just to that point, I think, you know, waste to energy is a part of our waste management infrastructure, but just to be clear, it's not an accepted practice in a zero waste framework.
I
And it-
agree, but
yeah.
just in terms of so that people understand
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
their
I see.
actual choices
Yeah.
when they have something in their
I
hand.
see. Yeah, yeah, that's great to point out. You know, if we don't recycle this, it will end up in a landfill and it will be burned. It will be incinerated. And what are the consequences? Yeah. So
And-
in it, yeah. Go
Oh,
ahead.
Bill, and I was just going to suggest maybe
Skipping ahead.
so just to expedite on time,
Yeah.
if you want to move to maybe like slide 15 and talk about kind of the building capacity at Rose Tree.
I wanted to
yeah.
ask a quick question to Francine.
Sure.
According to our agenda, we do have some extra time. Would you want them to continue until the time on the agenda that they're supposed to have ended?
I was thinking the same thing, Carol. We are ahead of schedule, way ahead of
Yeah.
schedule. So I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Okay.
We can
So
still
I'll,
probably move ahead to like talking
Yeah.
about the Rose Tree parts and fill that in.
Yeah.
I guess I could
Okay.
just fill in sort of the background on the zero waste overall goals, you know, working beyond the capacity building that we'll do with equipment through the grant, through Candid, as well as the training and staffing
Yeah.
and volunteer coordination.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is the grant is for 2 years. So it'll actually go through, I think it's to the end of this year, since it started off actually in 2020, but 2020 we didn't have any concert series at Rose Tree. So we're implementing it for the first time this year. But the intent there with the grant is to kind of kickstart the zero waste program at Rose Tree. So while we're getting the equipment to implement expanded recycling efforts and hopefully in the future composting efforts at the park, this zero waste planning will be an ongoing kind of partnership between PRC, Rose Tree, the concessionaires on site, and everything like that. Because there's a lot more that'll go into the continued zero waste goal than just having recycling and composting available. And that'll come through, you know, creating environmentally preferred purchasing agreements with the vendors and concessionaires, helping to establish that in Rose Tree itself as a facility, and lots of different efforts like that. So, you know, we're focusing on the concert series and kind of the brass tacks of getting some boots on the ground and some recycling containers out there for this summer. But that'll be an ongoing effort in the months and years moving forward. So.
Great. So just to kind of hopefully sync a little bit with what you were explaining, Emily. So here's some images on this slide of the types of equipment, the signage that we develop based on local guidelines for recycling, and also support of seasonal hauling. So there'll be you know, additional infrastructure on site for the season to take single stream recycling. And so we're already, this is underway. The equipment has been ordered and we're going to be developing the signage. And then we're going to be working more to translate some basic you know, kind of big picture training, like I started, you know, at the outset of the presentation, and translating it to practice on the ground at the events this season. And that does cover a bunch of areas, including a green team supporting whether it's staff and or volunteer enlistment and training, sourcing, so working with the concessionaire and or other vendors to ensure that materials that are going to be distributed for food and beverage are going to be readily recyclable, you know, based on the local infrastructure. And so there's hopefully some changes that we can help guide to improve the recycling outcomes. And then communicating and supporting the effort and tracking. This is just some examples, and I'll go through these quickly, of the type of information we provide to teams that are involved in planning for zero waste events. So looking at the timeline for events, making sure that you cover all aspects of planning, vendor engagement, volunteer enlistment, and I'll talk about that on another slide. And then also implementing according to plan. And it's interesting, I think in the context of facilities, there, you know, as with events, there's the issue of contamination And so it really does require a concerted effort from planning through implementation with a team that's trained to help ensure that contamination is not rampant and really undermines the zero waste effort. Here's some more examples. This is really just fleshing out the different aspects of planning and implementation. And I'm going to look at a volunteer enlistment tool that we use. And this is something that is, I think widely used, or similar tools are used at events. I'm going to skip ahead to that. What we try to do to amplify a core green team and staff that is dedicated to zero waste events practice is enlist volunteers. And so we'll use tools like Sign Up Genius and other tools, usually a month or more in advance of an event, to provide an announcement, to engage the public and or community members, and to create a fun opportunity to support a recycling effort, be a part of a team, and really accomplish what can be a challenging goal otherwise without that people power. And so a tool like this allows you to schedule well in advance for every day of an event, sign up slots, so you can have shifts. It's ideal that you don't have people standing out for hours on end. It's good to have people show up, put in an hour or two, and then be relieved by additional members of the community. And that just spreads, the word, so to speak. Everybody becomes not only informed, but they actually have hands-on experience of what it's like to engage as we call it a zero waste goalie at an event, and guide the public and other participants at the event, again, based on the local guidelines for recycling. And ultimately, these participants can then help celebrate the outcome, and maybe even become repeat participants in supporting the events throughout the season. I think we're probably short on time, but did you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there, and kind of the core of what I was hoping to speak with you guys as Sustainability Commission about, and get to know you guys a little bit, is in regards to pulling together a green team for this year's zero waste goal for the Rose Tree Summer Concert Series. So we are about 2 months out from the launch weekend of the Rose Tree Summer Concert Series. And I'm planning for the rest of April to begin working with Beth Chapman and some of the other folks in special events and outreach through Delco and through the parks in particular, to start working on some outreach materials about the zero waste program, about the goal that Rose Tree has, and what they'll be doing, so that can lay the groundwork to try and do some broader outreach to the community at large, seeking these volunteers. So the equipment that we've ordered for Rose Tree to expand the recycling collection, that'll be available in the amphitheater. Some of it's permanent containers that'll just be there all the time for existing facility staff to be able to manage pretty much and within their normal operations as they go. But then we also have some event-specific containers that'll be placed out as extra capacity. I don't know if you saw back in that equipment image, but there were a couple that looked like blue metal containers. We call those clear streams. And that additional capacity definitely requires some additional support for the facilities team. So it's not too much for them to manage when it's 5,000 people coming out to a concert, and they don't have to wade through that crowd to get to some of those containers. So having zero waste goalies on hand to be there to educate people about what goes in each container, to tie off a full bag and replace it with a new one, is a really important component of making that a successful system to operate. So I wanted to reach out to you guys here and just to put a little worm in your ear about the green team, about zero waste goalies for this summer. And just to say, if you or any of the groups you're involved in think that you know folks who might be interested in getting involved in volunteering, you can reach out to me directly. My email is emilyp@prc.org. Maybe Francine, I'll send that to you in an email to pass along to folks. But yeah, just to say there's going to be lots of ways to get involved with this effort if you want throughout the summer, and if you know other members of the community who might be interested in getting involved as well. So I think, Bill, is there anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, I think it's already been covered. Thank you so much. We're going to be working with PRC and Rose Tree Park for the rest of the year on this project. You know, we're focused on this summer season, and it's going to be a great learning experience together. And we hope that it can, you know, lay the foundation for, you know, as Emily indicated earlier, for continued practice in years to come, adding composting and really getting closer to you know, a zero waste goal for Rose Tree Park and its events.
All right.
Thank you so much, Bill and Emily. Does anyone have any questions for Bill and Emily? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you for giving us a little extra time there. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So no questions. We can move on if there aren't any, but
I just want to add though, if anybody is interested, please email me, because it does seem like a great volunteer opportunity for all of us. Thank you.
okay. So I'll share my screen so we can go on to the next item on the agenda. And actually the next item is public comment. Anyone from the public, if you have any questions right now, please ask them. And if we can also check other avenues for public comment, like Francine, like the email.
Yeah, I'm looking and I don't see anything from today for our meeting.
Okay. All right, any public comment? Okay. Hearing none for that. Next item on the agenda is Keep PA Beautiful.
That's
Hey everyone.
Kylie, yes.
So I'm Kylie. I'm the affiliate coordinator with the nonprofit Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful. I just want to kind of explain a brief overview of our affiliate program. So we basically just want to add value to existing organizations. We have about 27 total affiliates so far, covering 35 counties and locations. Most of them are based out of conservation districts, solid waste authorities, government organizations, or they could be a program of an existing 501c3. So some benefits are basically just you have access to our affiliate mini grant, which is $500 seasonally, which you can use for any program. One of my favorites so far was someone used it to start a bee apiary farm. They had some bees in their facility that they didn't want to just kill. So they used our affiliate mini grant to start their own apiary, actually at Westmoreland Cleanways. So there's some really cool programs and projects that you can use that money for. That's $2,000 annually. And then we do awards programs. So this is just kind of to get your name out there and make those community ties. We have a Volunteer of the Year program, which will send you a certificate. You can nominate one volunteer, kids, adults, anyone, and we'll send you a certificate and these engraved glass recycled tumblers. And then usually the affiliate will host a little mini ceremony, hey, congratulations, thanks for giving your time and effort and support. So it's just a really nice addition to the community. And then we also have community partner awards, which the affiliate can nominate a community partner who has just really helped their success. We also have a lot of networking opportunities. I host quarterly webinars and I do bi-weekly emails. So actually the next one that I have coming up is a whole steal this section. So they can just get on the Zoom, and it's Pittsburgh can be hey, Allentown, what are you guys doing? What programs are you guys implementing this summer? They can talk about native invasive species removal, litter cleanups, anything that might be of interest to them, how to start their own apiary, things like that. So we do a lot of networking. I do send the bi-weekly emails, just a reminder about our programs. You have access to all of our program materials. We do litter-free school zones and adoption programs, which we have about 400 of those combined. So you get all of our resources to that. And you get me as just always there for you, anything that you could need. And that's basically the rundown. If there's any questions, I can explain more.
I actually have a question. I see Melissa
Yeah.
has a question too. But I
Oh,
just
you go first, actually,
All right,
please.
cool. Thank you. So when I was with the School District of Philadelphia, we had a really close relationship with Keep Philadelphia Beautiful, which was
Okay.
an affiliate of Keep PA Beautiful. And so it sounds like we could potentially have a real program for Delaware County that is through you, in which we have like real initiatives. So how do we go about getting started with that? I guess Ed McGargy's here. I don't know if you have a relationship that, because it sounds like it would need to be spearheaded through one of our departments. How would that work? Should we meet
So
for this?
basically, I can email you guys separately about this, but that now would be like the perfect time to start a new affiliate. We are in the process of building our capacity. We're just introducing new affiliate agreements, a new structure of the affiliate system. So just kind of enhancing our program. I'm a newer position, so I have the whole full-time dedication to the program. So basically, we can do a walkthrough of just how you would affiliate. We'll come out there for a training session. It's a $250 startup fee.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we would come out there for a training and just walk you guys through the whole program. And that's basically the whole
Awesome.
small gist.
Yeah, because we could kind of work through the 49 municipalities and how we can work with each one of those folks with some of the initiatives and programs we can develop together. Ed, what are you thinking? Have you ever done anything like this before with?
No, we have not.
All right, cool. So after this meeting, if we can connect, it would be fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be wonderful. We do have Lynn Armel in Erie, who would be a similar position to you guys. We can also in the future connect you to her. And then actually, I don't know if you've heard of Rachel Griffith yet.
Yes.
Okay, so she's gonna start. We're in the process of affiliating her also. So she would be another great kind of connection of just a nice walkthrough of starting an affiliate. So that's similar to, because you guys would be different kind of than a conservation district. Not necessarily doing the same exact programs and things like that, just by nature. But yeah, no, that would be wonderful.
Okay, and then we can report back to the Sustainability Commission on some of the progress we're making if we can start moving with that. It's like I said, with the School District of Philadelphia, Keep Philadelphia Beautiful helped us with so many different things. The Waste Watchers program was pretty interesting at events. It's very similar to what the Pennsylvania Resources Council is talking about here. And other initiatives, a lot of training we provided through Keep Philadelphia Beautiful on how to do a recycling program in our facilities. And so it sounds like a really promising relationship we can have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think our return on investment is definitely pretty significant. And then just adding the grassroots value to each community is kind of our end goal.
Yes, because we're trying to make sure we're providing equitable access to all 49 municipalities and the resources we have available. And so this could be a really nice community engagement and outreach approach that we use. Melissa, thank you for connecting us. I know that you connected us. So.
Oh, well, but you have been connected as well in the past. But if I may, I just wanted to add a few things. And Francine's right. I've reached out to Keep PA Beautiful a long time ago. So I'm speaking in my capacity with the district attorney's office, and we've been really trying to explore community-based multidisciplinary programs that leverage leverage efforts to curb illegal dumping with reducing gun violence and blight. And I just want to, in that context, Keep PA Beautiful has some great data that I've relied on so that we could get grant money. And they've got some excellent resources if you need data points to tell your story around litter and illegal dumping. Also, Francine, just like you were talking about, the scope of training tools is pretty broad. For our purposes, we're talking about training for the district judges, for code enforcement officials. So training opportunities pretty much go wide and deep as far as I know. We haven't embarked on that yet, but the resources I understand are there. And I also wanted to mention, I don't think this is a Benny associated with the affiliate status, but cleanups and Kylie, you could probably speak to this more accurately, but cleanups during specific times of year, if your organization sponsors those, I think if you register your cleanup with Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful, you will get, as long as supplies last, like free gloves, vests, and supplies for cleanup. So it's just another add-on. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that the only other affiliate, at least on paper right now, is in Chester, in the city of Chester. So if and when Delaware County were to kind of activate an affiliate status, there may be some synergy in reaching out to the current Chester affiliate and looking to see where there might be opportunities to engage. So.
Yeah, just to note, like the pickup PA that you were mentioning is currently March 1st through May 30th. And actually April is free disposal month also. And as Melissa mentioned, if you registered with us, just go to our website. It's right under programs, pickup PA. You get the free bags, free gloves, free vests as supplies allow. You don't have to be an affiliate to do that. That is just for the whole general public. So yeah, please definitely host a pickup PA event. And then, yeah, we can talk more in the future about affiliation and kind of what's going on in Chester. But yeah, I would love to absolutely connect some more.
Thank you, Kylie. Are there any other questions for Kylie? Okay, thank you again, Kylie.
Thank you for having me.
So the next item on our agenda is Literati.
Jeff is here. Jeff.
Francine and Melissa, thank you both for the invitation to come share. Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Kirshner. I'm the founder and CEO at Literati. I'd like to share my screen if I may. So Literati is a technology platform that is powering data for a litter-free world. The reality is that about a third of all plastic packaging and certainly litter ends up as litter. And it creates this vicious cycle that we've been watching for the 10 years since I founded the company. And it's really this. One, people are demanding change. Number two is NGOs end up advocating for tighter policy, leading to brands getting blamed, but you all are the ones who bear the cost. And the reality is that everybody is looking for data. That's not a big insight, but this is what we have been asked for time and time again. The sad reality is that today's solutions really aren't working. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. When you think about how municipalities and counties have been counting the data, oftentimes it's been the number of bags of litter picked up this year versus last year. And other than the progress that was made last year to this year in terms of how many bags, maybe weight, that really doesn't lead to any insight, certainly nothing that can lead to change. A second problem is that the manner and methodology in which we've been collecting that data traditionally has been done with pencils and clipboards. Now we're starting to move into some spreadsheets and things like that. But primarily, this has been a pretty antiquated and outdated method that's error prone and time sensitive. And then the final thing is how it's categorized. So in the city of Philadelphia, a fairly progressive city when it comes to litter, there's the visual scoring where there's some drive-bys that occur a couple of times a year, and they will mark on a scale of 1 to 4 whether or not a street is clean or not. We believe that there's a better way. And at Literati, we have built this global litter platform that has about 10,000 monthly active users. We've documented 16 million pieces, growing at anywhere from 50 to 150,000 a day over 185 countries. And here's how it works. It's all done through a free iOS and Android application that empowers people to be part of the solution. And what we've done is we've built computer vision models. So what those models do is we are training this AI to look at those photographs. And those photographs, the first one of which was taken by my daughter, those photographs will identify, is there an object? And if so, what's that object? And then what's the material? And what's the brand? And what that allows us to do is create this really rich data set, all which is stored in the cloud, but gets to very granular hyperlocal data. And then we incorporate other data sets, such as human mobility or city demographics, or points of interest. A point of interest might be where are all the storm drains located, or where are the schools located, or where are current construction zones happening. There are two parts of our platform. Think of them as the heart and the mind. Engage is the heart. How do you mobilize your citizens to be part of the solution? Analyze is the mind. That's where we put researchers on the ground who follow a very specific protocol and research methodology. So we get to that most granular level of block by block data. And I'm going to give you a couple examples quickly. Recent project, this is actually with a group of students in New York City. We were able to start tracking where the litter that they're identifying is in Manhattan through heat maps. And what that turns into is this data exhaust. So very quickly, in real time, we were able to show our New York partners, hey, there are 2,700 people that are contributing to keeping Manhattan clean. They've picked up 250,000 items that weigh about 672 kilograms. This is what the volume looks like. And they have contributed about 1,600 hours of their time to make that happen. So you can start to see what it looks like when you have data that demonstrates how you are engaging your citizens to keep your municipalities, your communities, your counties litter free. And then there's all of the additional data exhaust. Well, out of those 250,000 pieces, what are the objects? What are the materials? And then what are the brands? On the analyze side, we can start to get very, very localized with where things are located, whether it's around, let's say, an office park, so that you can understand, are the recycling bins, are the trash cans in the proper areas, or do people tend to toss a cigarette butt when they're outside by their car? Or we do it along coastal areas or waterways, so we can start to understand, are different types of waste flowing into the water table, into an ocean, a bay, a river, or a creek? Or one of your next door neighbors, how can we start to look at more urban environments to really get a sense of where are the hotspots, where is illegal dumping located? And what we do is we also integrate things like the recycling bins, the signage, other infrastructure to understand, are those things effective or not? Because it all comes down to this. When Francine talked earlier about the length of time, right? 10 years, I believe what you said, Francine, a 10-year action plan. At the end of the day, everybody's really looking for change, but you need to start with baseline data in order to get to insight and an action plan that will lead to that change. And so the way we work with our partners is we provide this tool, this platform that allows them to collect, visualize, analyze the data for things like maintaining compliance around items like stormwater compliance. It allows them to monitor progress. How are we doing over time? And ultimately to measure their ROI. This for us is the theory of change. And it's arguable to say that for the last 70 years, we've just been in that vicious cycle that I talked about in the beginning. And our belief is that if you are truly going to solve this problem, you have to follow a theory of change. And it starts with the identification through the data, which leads to insight. That insight then crafts an action plan. And once that's put into place, you can then measure and monitor whether or not that action plan makes sense. As an example, you might see that in one particular area of Delaware County, you've just put in new recycling bins, new trash cans. Are they making a difference or not? Was that investment worth it or not? Here's just a quick look at some of the clients that we work with, cities and counties in the US. We work with quite a few in Europe as well. And I'm going to give you 3 quick examples of how that data has actually led to change. One of the first projects we ever did was actually with Ruth Abbey in the city of San Francisco. And the city wanted to understand what percentage of litter came from cigarette material, meaning the butt, the pack, or the plastic wrapper that goes around that pack. Why? Because they had created a tax. It was called the litter abatement fee. And when they created that tax, they used pencils and clipboards to collect that data. As a result of that methodology, the city got sued by the tobacco industry because the tobacco industry claimed that pencils and clipboards weren't precise. not provable. We were brought in, and because everything we did was photographed, there was a point of evidence, and each photograph has a timestamp and a geotag. And so we were able to provide that data, which not only defended, but ended up doubling that tax, generates about $4 million a year for the city of San Francisco to keep itself clean. Recently in Holland, on the Engage side of our platform, a number of community members picked up approximately 50,000 of these fireworks. These are called connector balls. They are about a golf ball size, and you can imagine when they explode, the plastic fragmentation ends up all over the ground. And because of that data, that was used to change the actual packaging. And so manufacturers of these connector balls have actually changed them from plastic to paper. It came from the pressure placed by leading retailers. A huge one called Albert Heijn, which is sort of the Walmart of Holland, said, we're done selling these plastic fireworks unless you do something about them. And then finally, a school example in a small town called Modesto, California. These students on their campus collected about 1,247 pieces of litter over the course of about 2 weeks. And they looked at the data and they learned that most of that data came from the plastic straw wrappers from their own cafeteria. And so they just went to their principal and said, why are we even buying straws? And they stopped. And if you think about from a city, a brand, or a school mentality, you can understand how the data can lead to an action that can lead to a positive change going forward. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Jeff, thank you so much for that presentation. I just want to add that when we had a meeting before this to discuss the Literati work, Melissa was with us. She introduced me to you. And I think that it was important to share what you said about a plastic bag ordinance, a ban ordinance, and how that something like Literati could be used to show between two different municipalities, one that has enacted the plastic bag ban versus not, and seeing the difference between the litter, where, did you want to say anything about that?
I'm happy to. So when Francine and Melissa and I were discussing this, there's this foundational element that Literati has started to provide, I would say, and it's knowledge sharing, right? When you look at cities or counties that are faced with similar challenges, and one has enacted a certain program or initiative, there's great learning there for similar cities, right? And those cities can be demographically similar, their population sizes or topography can be similar, and there's a lot to learn there. And I think the specific example that Francine is referring to is Philadelphia, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's not my home, they struggled for years to pass a plastic bag ban. And it took, I think, maybe close to 10 years before it did pass. And at the end of the day, it came down to, it was the data that really drove that decision, because it becomes irrefutable. I think that's one of the things we've learned over time, is that if you really want to create change, one, it's going to take time. Two, you need to demonstrate, Melissa said earlier, using data to tell your story. You need to leverage data to tell an accurate and compelling story. And three, you have to be able to measure, did it work or not? Because at the end of the day, the counties, the cities, we all spend a ton of money. And until we can really understand whether the initiative, like a new bag ban, like an educational curriculum, like more infrastructure, is working, the only way we can tell is by measuring it and monitoring it over time.
And this uses crowdsourcing, right? But there's also another way of doing it.
Correct. So if you recall, there's the engage side and the analyze side. Engage is, we like to say, the wisdom of the crowd. That is not scientific, right? I want to be clear. That's about how can John and Jane Doe get involved, which we hear all the time, and we have a very large community that is constantly contributing that data. Then there's analyze. This is for our partners who say, we want statistically reliable data, and we want to start to share our data sets. We want to start to say, like, hey, how is litter impacting our storm drain locations? Or how is litter correlated to schools? Or we just completed a project in Wake County here in North Carolina where they wanted to understand, they had certain hypotheses that they wanted to test. And then we tested over a 4-phase measure and monitor program. And something that we learned that was fascinating was that We call it a point of interest. Construction zones were magnets for litter. And so what Wake County said was, okay, now that we know that, which we didn't know before, what can we do? And through brainstorming, you come up with very simple ideas, such as anytime there's a new permit for more construction, part of that requirement is you must have X recycling bins, trash cans, etc. on premise. That is a very, very simple change to enact, but without the data, it typically doesn't occur. But Francine, hopefully that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And once again, when I was with the school district of Philadelphia prior to coming to Delaware County, we worked with Literati. There were a few schools where the students actually had a competition using the app and picking up the litter around their schools. And they had a competition to see who could pick up more. And it was really exciting. At the end of the year, they all competed and schools won awards for that. So it's also a fun app to use, kind of interesting. So thank you for sharing that, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, thank you, Jeff. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Is the Sustainability Focus Area Subcommittee's recommendations. Francine?
Okay, so anybody who's on the Sustainability Commission should have received an email indicating that we are going to postpone having the subcommittee meetings until we can, number one, meet as a group. First of all, I just want to mention and remind everybody what this means. So the Sustainability Commission is tasked with developing our sustainability plan for the county. We have come up with our high-level goals and our focus areas, or should I say our focus areas that have high-level goals. Each of them, there are 6 focus areas: health and wellness, natural resources, climate resiliency, transportation, energy, and waste. And each one of those focus areas has, now it's in a position where we're trying to identify specific targets and actions. So we're forming these subcommittees to do that. And so these will be intensive feedback and discussion sessions where we're going to meet bi-weekly until September or before then, where we can come up with these very specific targets and actions. And so we wanted to start in April. And so we recruited members of these subcommittees. The commission members here nominated folks to participate from outside of the commission and within the commission. And so we do have a group for each of these 6 focus areas, but we need more. And so I met with Jacqueline, who's our vice chair, and Carol, our chair of the Sustainability Commission, this week to review the agenda. And we have decided that I think there's a need to schedule a meeting with our commission again to review who's on these subcommittees and who else do we need, because it's not a complete picture of everyone that should be on these subcommittees, and then schedule these meetings when there is a sustainability and resilience manager here to help manage that, because we're talking about 6 subcommittees meeting bi-weekly. It's going to be 12, it's going to be a significant amount of meetings per month. So that's where we are with that, I think. Yes. Any questions, Carol? This is the next topic on the agenda, but I just want to see if there's any questions about the subcommittees. I know a few of you have sent me emails regarding this, and I've responded to you individually, but I think we'll meet together again as a group to discuss that at some point.
Francine, do we have a time frame for hiring a sustainability and resilience manager?
ASAP. No, so there are 2 candidates. So we advertised the position, and we received about 10 resumes, and there were 2 people that had the qualifications. So we did change the qualifications because this was a position we hired for last year, and that person has left, and now we're looking again, but we changed the criteria, meaning that it's only requiring a bachelor's degree and 1 year experience, not only, but previously we asked for master's or doctorate level and like 10 years worth of experience. And so I think this opens up a pool of candidates more. So David, to answer your question, as soon as possible, I'm going to try and schedule these interviews, and maybe one of these people will be the candidate that we hire. So let's say 2 months at the most, I'm hoping.
There are some questions in the chat. Can the public join the subcommittee or volunteer?
Yes, they can. In fact, a few people who have been attending these Sustainability Commission meetings had emailed me and said, I'd like to be on this. And so that's how we did add those folks to the subcommittees. If anybody's on here who that was one of you, if you want to just say how that worked, even though we didn't start the subcommittee meetings yet. I don't know if anybody's on.
There's another question. Are there documents we should be reading for these focus areas, like baseline data and so on?
Yes, actually, that's a great question. So to prep the folks for these subcommittee meetings, what the steps we are going to take is share all of the baseline data that we have collected as the Sustainability Commission, as well as with the LCAP students. So there are greenhouse gas emission inventories. We have public surveys. We have information from the research we have done through our Greening the County Operations Group subcommittee that we had as a Sustainability Commission. So the answer is yes. Have I made it available to you yet? No, because we're still organizing it. We have our intern, Emily Riley, was kind enough to assist in organizing the data into folders for each of those subcommittees. And so that is the first step of engagement. After actually identifying who's on the subcommittees, identifying dates for the meetings, and the next step is to share that information with each subcommittee at the same time. I hope that answers the question. Anything else, Carol?
No, thanks, Francine. No other question in the chat.
So the next item on the agenda, Carol, to save you the time, is about the conference. The 2 weeks to the conference, folks. Getting very excited here. And so Sean is here with us as well. I just want to go through a couple of slides to share with you where we are. Sean, I know you may be saying the same thing, but on Monday at 3:30, Carol, Sean, and myself, Sean Rush, who is our audiovisual tech guru, we're visiting the site again to do a walkthrough. Carol, this will be your first time there to have a feel for it. We're very grateful. We asked Carol if she would be willing to facilitate the speaker sessions, and she was kind enough to say yes. So that will be really helpful to have Carol there to announce the speakers, the title of their presentations, and a little bio for each person. And so that'll be really helpful. Tuesday of next week at 2 o'clock, we're having a presenter prep meeting, a virtual meeting that'll be recorded for all those who are presenting. We will have a QR code. Amanda, I think, is on the call right now on our meeting. She is from our Sustainability GIS group. She was kind enough to put together this QR code virtual brochure of the event that will have a listing of all of the speakers and the title of their speaking engagements and the whole flow of the day. And there is a really cool thing that we're doing, an EV ride and drive event I'm going to talk about in a minute. But this is the draft agenda. I know you can't really see it very well, but I'll try and say the welcome and introductions. Keynote speaker is Ruth Abbey. Panelist discussion, we're going to have our Inter-County Sustainability Collaborative members there. I think I mentioned to this last time. So nothing really has changed since our last meeting, other than we have added DEP. So we're going to have the DEP visit us for a virtual 10-minute talk. So Justin, who is the Environmental Justice Director now, he was just appointed, that's a new role for him as the director of that unit of the DEP. He's going to speak with us about the open comment period for the environmental justice policy. So I'm glad that he's going to be able to speak to us. Also, we have added Tony Bandiero, who is the executive director of EPACT and Drive Electric Pennsylvania. He's actually going to share information about EVs, infrastructure, and funding in Pennsylvania. And he is spearheading the actual ride and drive event. We're going to have about 10 EVs outside of the Subaru Park. And people have the opportunity to enjoy looking at them and even possibly driving them. Let's see if there's anything else new. It's all pretty much the same as last time we talked. But I wanted to share these special breakout events. So we will have groups of 30 people, 2 sessions for Subaru Loves the Earth Garden for Good tours, where they grow the food that is donated to local food banks at Subaru Park, tended by Pennsylvania Horticultural Society and Subaru Park staff members. Once again, the EV Ride and Drive event, sponsored by Drive Electric Pennsylvania Coalition. We're also going to have tours of actual Subaru Park facility, looking at the sustainability features there. We're also going to have a Sustained Delco Awards ceremony during the lunch hour. So it's just a friendly way to show our appreciation to a few folks who have been unbelievable over the last year in supporting our sustainability efforts. Of course, meet and greet with the members of this commission. So we're hoping to have all of our Sustainability Commission members at the event to meet with the public And so you guys can talk with folks and get to know each other. We will be having info tables from nonprofits, government, and industry partners, and we are going to have attendee prizes of Philadelphia Union soccer tickets. So we're going to have a drawing, a few drawings throughout the day to share those tickets with some lucky winners. Just want to show the Conference Zero Waste plan here. The Subaru Park staff, the venue, has ensured us that this will be a zero waste event. They have these different receptacles at the facility to make sure that we are sorting our waste properly and trying to minimize any waste at all by having reusable items on site, but they will be using compostable cutlery and other items, cups and plates. And we have a public transit plan. We've worked with SEPTA to make sure, and Tom Schaefer is on the call. I want to thank him very much, and Kathy Spar from the planning department in engaging with SEPTA to make sure that we have public transportation. All of this information is going to be sent to all of the registrants in one location. And so quickly, this is what it's going to look like. When I send it to you, it shows all the bus routes and the times and the websites to go to get information on connecting rail service and bus routes. So that will be coming to all registrants in an email. These are the information table organizations. So these are the folks that will be stationed at tables sharing information with the attendees. I was speaking to Ruth Abbey today, and she's actually going to use her table with Zero Waste Associates to get feedback from the public regarding high-level, the guiding principles of the solid waste management, the 10-year solid waste management plan. But these are the folks that are going to be participating with tables. We do need commission member volunteers. And so I'm going to share a link. I'm actually going to copy it and put it in the chat box here that you guys can sign up to participate as volunteers. David, I know you did reach out to me and ask me this question. Was there any opportunity for volunteers? And the answer is yes, we figured it out. There are volunteer opportunities. And so I'm going to put it in the chat when I stop sharing my screen. Sean Rush, would you like to share anything? I totally stole all the thunder there, I'm sure. I'm sorry. I don't know. Is anybody here who is a speaker at the conference? Please speak now. I don't think so. Yes, well, that's going to be Danielle. So Danielle's going to be the one and all knowing. She knows everything that's going on. So Danielle Floyd, our public works director, has been kind enough to make sure that she's going to have, well, Sean made sure we're going to have walkie-talkie. I mean, it's going to be like serious coordination for this event. So because there is no time between speakers, we have a jam-packed agenda. It is. It's on the list of volunteers. I just want to add, Jim McLaughlin made a really good point that Subaru Park utilizes Covanta, just like all of the municipalities. So when anything is thrown away, if there is thrown away, it does go to the incinerator. So they do incineration as part of their zero waste hierarchy. And I'm hoping maybe next time we can be more careful in regards to how we do this. But Jim, well said. Anything else you'd like to share about that, please do. We are trying to recycle and compost though. So that is taking it out of the waste stream that goes to any waste disposal facility.
I see Melissa has her hand raised.
Hey, yeah, so Francine, you just triggered my memory of a question that I asked you. And if I missed this, I got sidetracked by something, but is the zero waste policy or guidances for the conference, or are the zero waste guidance for the conference and how we all conduct ourselves, is that still in development? Or, and I think I've one of the table, well, I think I have one of the tables, and I've been to zero waste conferences before, and I'm just super mindful that I have handouts because that's kind of the old school, the way the DA's office does it. And I really don't want to see our handouts, you know, on the truck on the way to Covanta.
Yeah, I think, you know what, maybe in the messaging to those who are doing the informational tables, I will send an email making sure that that is something that is on their mind, that we do not want to have any waste resultant from our tables. And I think they should, the folks that I have spoken to are very mindful of that. City Club and
yeah, I mean, maybe that's precisely what I do, that if somebody's taking something, I'm like, look, just remember there's a zero waste, like take it home, put on your refrigerator, but don't put it in the trash.
Yeah, Becca says have QR codes with your handouts. That way we can save them. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Right, and you didn't plan on printing agendas really, just like a couple, just in case somebody comes, they don't have a cell phone or anything like that.
Yes, I was advised that we should make sure we have a few handouts available because some folks may not have phones. So we will have about a dozen or so handouts of the brochure, but QR codes, that is the way we're going to be doing the brochure when you walk in. So your agenda for the day will be on your phone.
You know, if you want, Francine, how many tables are there?
At least 20. We're about to 22 at this point.
Each table could just have like an agenda, like literally taped to it, so nobody can take it. But that way people can, as they're going through the tables, like, oh shoot, I want to go see that session or something.
I agree. So we'll see. So I have 3 email groups that I have. One is the actual registrants for the event, the speakers, and then the tables. Actually, another one are volunteers. So there are 4 streams of communications that I'm sending out. And so I can send that in an email to the folks who are hosting tables to use a QR, have our QR code at their table with the agenda for the day there, as well as their information if possible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because they're very well maybe people who just don't deal with QR. Anyway, whatever. I'm sure you've all talked about that.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, anything else on the sustainability conference? Sorry, I'm going to be Carol for the next half hour, unless Francine wants to be Carol.
No, please, Jacqueline.
Okay. All right. Carol had to step away. Okay, so then next up on the agenda, which I can't flash, but really only have a couple items left, is to review action items from the last meeting. And my apologies, Francine, my
no worries, yeah,
operating a little off, so I'm keep trying to log in to get my minutes to see, but if there, that would be great.
And there are actually no action items from the last meeting, which is amazing.
That makes it super easy.
Yes.
The action item is for everyone to do something for Earth Month, which I would believe probably almost everyone here is probably have more than one item that they're taking care of.
I hope so.
All right, the next, yes, and attend the conference. Next up, new business. Anybody have any items they want to bring up? I have one. Does anybody else? No, hearing none. Okay. Something I brought up to Francine and Carol in regards to the focus area subcommittee setup, and obviously waiting for a sustainability manager is key to help with obviously managing all these subcommittees. So totally understand the delay there. But I was thinking, in order to help and be prepared for when the new manager comes online and we can really just roll with these committees, is to maybe set up a time for the commission to have like a working meeting to discuss each of those committees, who might be people that we would recommend to each one. And you didn't cover this, Francine, right? Because
Just briefly, just for a second. Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't sure if we need an agreement, where we approve setting something like this up and having a meeting in the next couple of weeks for a working session to discuss this. So again, the idea to help identify additional people that we may need for certain committees, really brainstorm, identify those individuals, and really go out to contact them. So then we're all prepped and ready to go for when the subcommittees meet.
That will be really helpful for me, because as I'm organizing this, there are gaps in the amount of people. There's just not enough for the health and wellness once again. But I can send out an invite or a doodle poll to see when everybody from the commission can be there. And then we'll probably have to be a public meeting when we discuss that. So we'll ask Sean to help with doing that. It'll be a special meeting. If everybody agrees with that idea.
Does anybody oppose that idea? And I will take your silence as being supportive.
We're going to have a special meeting, Sean. We're going to have another meeting that is going to be with the Sustainability Commission members discussing the subcommittees for the Sustainability Plan development process. So I'll talk to you off the meeting about scheduling that. I'll just get a date for that.
So the idea would be before our next full commission meeting. Okay, thank you, Sean. Okay, unless anybody has any other ideas, I know that Francine had put out, different Google Docs, and individuals can, add in suggestions. And I know for myself as well, can be rather difficult going back and trying to think about it. But when you're in the midst of a crowd, you really can brainstorm some different ideas, and then, we can be ready to go. Unless there's anything else for new business, then we will close new business. So then the action items for review, obviously, Francine, you will send out the doodle poll so we can get that set up for the next commission meeting. Anything else that we're missing? No, I'll go back and just double check, but I didn't have anything either. Okay. Any additional public comments?
Not in the emails.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Well, we are so efficient and so good that we're ending earlier. And I think everyone is motivated to go outside to enjoy the sun after multiple days of rain. So enjoy your time, enjoy the sun. Motion to adjourn? Yes.
So moved.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right, Tom and Becca, they're good. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Hi,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
Recording stopped.